right, man. Well, thanks for joining me here and coming on the AWO podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So let's just get into it, man. Tell people who you are. You're the bearded beekeeper.
Yeah, my name's Adrian Perez. I'm the bearded beekeeper. I own a company by the name of Gold Coast Wildlife. We specialize in live bee removal. That's our main thing, man. We try to get bees out of all sorts of locations and structures, and put them into a beehive and take them to one of our apiaries, and keep them healthy, keep them happy, and work them towards essentially getting towards a large size, like population-wise, and getting them ready to go out and do some pollination for larger crops like almonds and citrus and things like that.
That's awesome, man. I had a great time spending the day with you. We sweated like crazy. We didn't get stung, but we had a good time, man. That was so much fun.
Yeah, man. It's South Florida's a special kind of heat down here, man.
So yeah, let's kind of get into it. Like, why are the bees dying? I've heard they're dying because of cell phone towers or pesticides, or kind of explain what's going on with these bees.
Oh man, it's so many things. There's so many factors that come into play when you're talking about honeybees and their health. People talk about the towers. People talk about spraying pesticides. You got all sorts of things. There's even pests within the colony, like in numbers, that are constantly preying on honeybees and the colony itself. There's just to name a few, you got wax moths and small hive beetles. But to me, one of the biggest culprits is this mite that we have. It's called the varroa mite. And varroa is a problem, like a real big issue we have to deal with here in the States. That these mites essentially attach themselves to the honeybees, attach themselves to the larva as the larva is growing, and they cause all sorts of birth defects, health issues within the colony, and all sorts of real major issues that could lead to the loss of a colony. Now add to the mix all these other things that we talk about, and you can also include lack of food sources, lack of clean water for them to be able to actually go out and retrieve. There's a lot of factors that come into play that would contribute to a colony's either health or demise. So it just depends on the location, where these bees are, and what other problems do these bees have to face, including whatever man-made things that we want to introduce to nature's problems.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't realize there's so many factors of the bees populations just being wiped out. I mean, I always thought it was humans, but it sounds like there's mites and all kinds of bugs that actually eat the larva. Is that what happens?
That's correct, man. We have one of them we have a huge problem with them down here. They're called small hive beetle, and small hive beetles are little things, man. A fraction the size of a honeybee, but they have this very hard exoskeleton. So it's kind of hard to get them, corralled or kill them or anything. They can't really do anything about them. So what ends up happening is they'll end up trying to get these beetles corralled and to locations where they kind of like huddle around them and keep them in an area, but anything goes wrong within that, and there's a breach that one of the bees isn't holding up right, and those things could run out. Once those hive beetles get into the colony and mate, and those eggs hatch, those larvae that come out, they eat other bee larvae, they eat wax, they eat pollen, nectar, they eat all sorts of, essentially what the colony is made of. And as they're going on and eating away, they're, leaving a trail of defecation right behind them, and it spoils and destroys the colony from essentially the inside out. And what happens is those larvae will end up leaving. They'll go into the ground and the soil. They pupate, and then out come hive beetles again, and the cycle continues. So it's a big problem. You get a large population of hive beetles that go into a colony. It's not good. And even introducing a few hive beetles into a colony on accident because of equipment transfers and things like that. Like, I moved a box the other day that I had to bag and leave in the sun because there was no bees in it, but it was a piece of equipment that I left out, and there was at least 150 hive beetles that were trying to run out of there. So I bagged it to make sure there wasn't a breach of those hive beetles, because it could be a problem in your apiary. So they can be really problematic, and you can introduce just a couple into a weak colony, and that colony won't survive much longer from that.
So you get those bugs in one hive, and then they spread to basically all of them.
Basically, man, you get a solid population, especially like you have locations that you may keep unchecked for a small number of time. You're supposed to inspect your colonies every 2 to 4 weeks, but there's sometimes you can't make it to some of these colonies, and there are instances where you can go to your boxes and you can have losses of colony because of hive beetles and other things. And even if it is something else, hive beetles can still move in. That's completely unprotected, and if the bees completely leave a colony behind because of something, those hive beetles can still move in and do their thing without any bees on there, even less to do, to fight off. And those larvae will come out, those beetles will come out of the ground, and could go to other colonies, and it can be a real problem if you don't have colonies that are hardy enough or strong enough to fight off, or defend themselves from that.
Yeah, let's kind of like dive into the hive itself. Like some of the cool aspects of the queen that you and I talked about during the video is just all the functions that she does, and the one thing that I didn't really know is the majority of the bees are females.
That's correct, man. Almost all those honeybees inside that colony are female. They're the ones that take care of the colony. They're the ones that leave to go get resources and bring them back. It's almost all female run, which is it's amazing to see all of this work get done, and then you tell somebody it's being done by female insects, and it's like, what? It's like, yeah, girl power. I have some girls, and my daughters of my own, and women rule the world, man. We're just here.
Guys, we're here for one function, and then we're out of here. So yeah, maybe talk about like the functions of a queen bee. Like I think you told me like that super nectar or something that they.
Well, the nurse bees produce this stuff called royal jelly, which is essentially like for the bee, from a bee standpoint, it's like honey on steroids. All eggs laid by the queen bee, for the first 3 days are fed royal jelly, and then from there, the drones, which would be male, are fed royal jelly for 5 days, which contributes to their like robust size and their large eyes for that serve multiple purposes. And then the queen would get royal jelly essentially her entire egg cycle, all the way to birth, which she would be born a virgin queen. And then, from there, she continues her life, just, goes out, mates, comes back, and then lays for the rest of her life. So, but royal jelly is what the contributing factor is to those eggs that are fertilized now to go ahead and produce a queen. All the other eggs that are laid and only fed for 3 days are what turn out to be worker bees, or only female. So, that's how like that egg cycle, and royal jelly takes part in that growth of that egg.
Yeah, the internet cut out a little bit, but hopefully that recording got it.
So, I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe, so how long does the queen bee live?
From egg to hatching, it takes 16, 17 days. And that queen can live a number of years. I'm not talking crazy, but I've heard, beekeepers that have had their queens in their boxes for, up to 5 years almost, which to me is wild, you know. From things that I've heard and seen and things that we experience down here because of the type of genetic pool that we have of our bees down here, it is wild to see any sort of queen like in the same colony longer than a year, let alone have some, one individual insect, laying for that colony for 5 whole years, which is, that's a long time.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's insane. But so the other bees only live like 45 days, right?
That's correct. Down here in the summer months, man, you get those eggs. Those bees born and leaving the colony. They live only for 45 days from birth. And down here, as soon as these bees hit the floor here and just go out, from that day to dying, it takes like 2 weeks. It's so hot down here, and like it really takes a toll on them. So, it sometimes can be even a little bit shorter. So.
Wow, and the queen lives that long. That's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
And she's pumping out like thousands of eggs a day?
Well, a queen bee down here, in anywhere, you get the proper genetic makeup, you could get queens laying anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500 eggs a day. Which is like, it's a lot of moving around and a lot of a lot of dropping into cells, man. And individual, she lays them one at a time. So,
dang, she's a machine.
Yeah, it's nonstop, man. And it has to stay that way for a certain time of the year. The only time it lulls is when the flow of nectar slows down, where there's not going to be a need for the amount of number. So they kind of you can say are more or less in tune with that nectar flow, and they act accordingly. The queen will produce according to, a huge nectar boom. She's going to be laying heavy, knowing that, there's food out there to go get.
Yeah, so let's kind of talk about like how bees communicate. They communicate through pheromones, right? And like that's how they talk.
So bees talk just like you and I talk, man, but the only difference is they use smells. They have on the back of their abdomen, they have this little gland that produces these pheromones, and once those pheromones are smelled by other honeybees, they start this communication process. And it's pretty crazy to see it happen, when you actually are seeing them tell each other things like, during our removal processes, if we catch a queen bee and we get her inside of a cage and put her inside of a box, you can see the flow of honeybees going from what once was, a water meter to a beehive, because the queen is in there. And you can see the bees like opening the gland, fanning, and essentially letting us know, that they know where the queen is, and they're communicating that. So it's really cool to actually see them talk. Another really cool thing with the pheromones, you can actually smell it sometimes. When we're doing some of these removals, you can get some really, really cranky bees, and funny enough, they produce this alarm pheromone, which essentially is like, get him, that's the guy. And those pheromones smell like ripe bananas. So sometimes you'll be working, and then all of a sudden you smell bananas, and then you remember like, oh, that's not something I want to be smelling right now, and then like right from there it just becomes, a little bit crazier of a time. Those pheromones are serious business, and are very effective for communication.
Yeah, that was one cool thing that when we were filming, we brought the bees back, and that the pheromones from that one queen were so strong that all the bees came and just went on that house. And like that was like a crazy experiment of like, she's strong,
Yeah. And that was that box that we were introducing to that yard. It had a queen in it. It had a queen, and once we let those bees out and they started flying back into that box or trying to go back to the box, the pheromones being produced by the box next door were stronger, and they were more, more attracted to that. So pheromones play a huge role in bee behavior and a lot of things.
Yeah, so that's basically like when you get stung, they sting you, and then there's pheromones on you that say this is a bad person or whatever it may be, and then even if you run, they still know that you're the bad guy.
Yep, they know that you got popped, man. There's that little sac that gets ripped out has a little, essentially, a continuous pump like a heart, would be for us, but it's just pumping that venom into you, and at the same time secreting a pheromone like a beacon. It's like, it's right here. Come get it right here. And wow. It's a signal to the rest of them that, like, I sacrificed. Go get them. And they definitely do act on it, man. There are times when you're going into these colonies that even like what you would imagine is a managed colony that's been taken over by we'll call them more defensive genetics. It shows. You'll start getting stung a little bit, and then it goes downhill from there. It's just they'll start getting at you. You'll have to put on gloves and everything. And I mean, I've had hives that you're working, and they're just covered in these little, the stinger sacs and everything. It's like, it's crazy to see, like just hundreds of bees try to sting something. So the pheromones are what drive that.
So so you're saying like that's a genetic trait in those particular bees that are more like, because the bees we touched, I mean, I didn't get stung. I had bees on me, and I just like lightly, get off,
Rushed them off. Yeah.
But like, so that's like a pheromone or a genetic trait for certain bees that are just like, don't come around here, we're gonna sting the shit out of you.
Yeah, man. You do definitely encounter some hives that. They, you show up to a site, and sometimes people will be like, "Oh, there's bees. They're over there," and you're like, "Oh, over there. I'm going." And you go. You're like, "Where are they?" And you don't know. And then the bees find you, and like, So you those ones definitely are. But you also never know what that hive was experiencing the night before. Did something come around it, like banging on it? Did some raccoon try to put their paw in there? Did some kids passing by, hit it with their bike tire to, like, see what would happen? Who knows? A lot of things that could cause, something, that behavior to spark. But there are colonies that are more defensive than others and are, prone to stinging. Much quicker than others. All honeybees can and are capable of, really hurting an individual, up to killing somebody if, you're not, smart about interaction with them. But there are some colonies, man, that you can't even come up to them without being fully suited up, ready to go and start working, because they will hurt you. They can really hurt you, and that comes down to genetics.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So honeybees can kill you. It's just they're not typically a bee that's going to be aggressive like that. Like, like a wasp or, something like that. I mean, even bumblebees aren't too bad. I mean, they're just
Correct.
Trying to get food and nectar to bring back to the hive.
That's right, man. That is all in genetics. I mean, they're nothing like, not even all wasps and hornets are aggressive. Don't get me wrong. Like, I wouldn't, go hanging out next to a yellow jacket's nest or nothing like that. But, at the same time, when you're hanging out, like, I don't know, having a picnic, you'll get that hornet or wasp that'll come by. It kind of just wants some sort of protein source that it may be attracted to on your, cloth there or in the basket, whatever you got going on. But for the most part, man, they don't really care about you until you're really, like, in their business, and yellow jackets are notorious for that, and those colonies get real big, and they're real cranky. every time. Like not, you know, not even a little nice ever. So you know, unlike honeybees, where we had the pleasure of being able to do a couple of removals, that they were really docile, man. Like we were picking up clumps of bees, and you know, it's they there are several colonies like that you know do have that defensive trait that hasn't been, you know, fully established yet. But sometimes you'll have a colony that is good, and as it grows larger and has more to defend, you know, those defensive traits may start coming into play because there's more room for, you know, I guess a severe loss that could really impact the colony itself. So you may get a little bit of defensive traits coming from it, but you know, you want to kind of shy away from bees that have like a heavy, you know, a heavy defensive set all the time.
Yeah, and you really just don't know, man. Like I said, we came across some pretty nice bees, and it was funny. All the homeowners were kind of freaking out. I mean, and here you are picking them up with your hands. So it's like,
Definitely, man, definitely.
so yeah, maybe let's talk about a little bit about live removals. You know, like that's sort of your thing, and I'm not sure, is it in Florida where by law you have to have a live removal, or is that something just people choose because they don't want to kill the bees?
That's gonna be more like a what people choose. Down here in Florida, you're as a homeowner, you can kind of do more or less whatever you want. I don't recommend ever going to Home Depot though and picking up, or any home goods store to be honest, or home improvement store to like pick up any sort of, you know, hornet or wasp spray. Like although it may potentially kill a hive or do harm to a hive, you can be opening up a can of worms that you're not ready for. You know,
Right.
you saw that some of those things that we opened up, there's like a lot of wax and a lot of bees, and there's a lot of stuff going on in there. And now you put that into somebody's home, and that's like a real, you know, all that is inside of your house, you know, and if you just, you know, think you're going to spray it and they're going to be good, it's not gonna work out that way. But down here in Florida, you don't have to necessarily save colonies. You know, you as a certified pest control operator, you can go out there, and as long as you're using chemicals that are rated for honeybees, you're not going to have any issues or any problems from the state in a sense of legality. Here, I just try to do my best to do live. Don't get me wrong; not every colony can be saved, and we do have to, you know, exterminate from time to time. But you know, live removal is the main objective. But unfortunately, it's not mandatory. You know, so it's really all up to the homeowner and what they want us to do as a service.
Yeah, it's good that they choose to save the bees. I think there's a lot more people out there that are more aware of the situation for bees, and you know, people are trying to do their part, not to just go out and spray them and kill them, because like we saw, they could come back even
Oh
if you
yeah.
spray them. Because I mean, we had to cut down that tree or tree branch just to remove it because others will come back. So even if you do that, there's a chance that, you know, all you're doing is causing more havoc and could get stung, or you never know, you know.
Yeah, man. Very,
Um,
very true.
yeah. So like, I guess, um, I don't really know like how many people here in Illinois would do that. I don't know. Like it's cool that people are more aware in Florida. I guess we've never had bees here like that, or anybody that I know of. You know.
Yeah, it's not warm enough, I guess.
What's that?
Not warm enough, I guess.
You know what? That could be maybe because we do have bees. I just don't see too many. You know, like they're in the water mains and stuff like that. I think it's maybe a better climate. You have all those oranges and stuff.
Oh yeah, man. It's
Um,
a lot going on down here.
One thing I think I forgot to ask you, and I'm going to ask you this, is why do bees make honey?
Why do they make honey? Oh man. So bees aren't from America. They are not from here. Bees are from Europe. And in Europe, where bees originated, bees need to go out in the spring and summer and early fall months and prepare the colony for overwintering. So they actually just go and slam the colony with resources in order to prepare for winter. And they store honey, so as the winter months continue until spring, they have food reserves in the colony and they don't have to leave. Because there are parts, of the world where it is cold, of this. And if you had bees over there, like your primary function as a beekeeper for this portion of the year would be preparing your hives for when it's starting to get cold. All the flow of nectars are over and all these bees are preparing to, hunker up for the winter. So that's why they store honey. Down here in Florida, we don't have that problem. We have almost a bloom almost year round. We only get like 6 to 8 months or 6 to 8 weeks of dearth, which is like a low nectar or pollen production essentially. And as it's getting warmer, things are starting to change, and I mean we're getting blooms throughout winter down here and like random wildflowers and such.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, they use it as a food source, right?
Correct.
I mean, I guess I should have known that, but it just seemed like.
No, man, it's good to know that. It's good to ask too, because the only reason we brought bees over here is for our commercial crop, and we had to learn all these things as it was happening over here.
That's awesome. And so something else that you told me that I found fascinating is like back to the guy bees, the drone bees. The only really other source besides genetic information and passing that on is they use them as insulation. So
that's right, man.
So they literally, the queen will plant the bees on the outside of the hive in the winter months, feed them only in the winter months, and then stop feeding them when it's over, and then they just die.
Basically, man, they use the carcasses for insulation. It's pretty savage. Bees are savages, man, and it's they use their tools to their advantage, and they will feed these eggs on the outside, those drone cells. They'll turn them into drone cells, which are larger, so they take up a little bit more body space, creating more warmth on the exterior of the colony. And they essentially just use that outside area where they're storing those eggs and those carcasses to insulate the interior of the colony where the queen is laying worker eggs to keep the colony alive.
That's awesome, man. Like, I can't even, like, we're useless, I guess, huh?
Hey, man, and after they do it, man, they drones will meet with a queen midair. They'll do their business, and he'll drop dead out of the sky, man.
Really?
Yeah, that's it.
So does she have to be impregnated every single time? I mean, she's laying, 2,000 eggs a day? Like, so is she constantly just banging, laying eggs,
Nah, man, she leaves the colony once for a mating flight, and she'll mate, with a dozen or so drones, and come back, and she's laying until she dies.
So that one-time mating, she's good for the duration of her life.
Yep. And here's the cool part, right? So if she goes out and mates and gets all these different genetics from different drones, the way that those eggs will cycle through those different genetics. So you can have a queen that's laying multiple genetic lines.
What?
From different colonies, yeah. So it's kind of like helping spread that gene pool, and it's crazy.
Oh my lord! So, man, you could really dive into that. Like, she must be having that saved in her. Like, I don't know what bees have, but like, she's only utilizing the sperm. I mean, that's insane, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's ridiculous. I just those are some things that I'm still reading on and learning, and it's it's just so crazy to even, like, you know, like you said, just think about, like, you do it once and that's it. Like, you know,
But you also think about the how many eggs she's. I mean, 2,000 or 1,000 a day.
exactly, man.
Whoa, that's an amazing creature.
It's like a factory, dude. Just raw material and pump it out.
Yeah. I mean, and it's so. What did you tell me before? Like, why do you like bees so much? Like, you told me something that was really cool. And I thought, like, if basically if humans could mimic bees in their behavior, let's not say kill all the men, but like, you know.
Well, man, essentially, man, bees work hard. They, working hard and teamwork. That's what life is all about, for them. So if we were even to work, I don't know, put a third of the effort, that bees put into making everything work, man, it's we would do wonders as human beings. Like just the bees just focus on getting it done for the hive, work for the hive, for the team, everything for the team. We as humans, we tend to be, fairly selfish from time to time, and, even as dads, and you and I, we, do tons for our family, but, we gotta be a little selfish sometimes. Bees wouldn't be like that at all, so if we were to be able to even kind of work at that, 1/3 of that ability, we'd be able to accomplish tons as humans. And I don't know, man, the level of genetic diversity you find in these colonies or bees that you have out in yards, and like the ability to just work together, and teamwork, man. It's incredible that, you have insects that can operate at that, social, level. That it's impressive. I find it to be very cool.
Yeah, no, when you told me that, I was like, that's so awesome, man, because there is a lot to learn from bees, just the way they operate, but let alone like how their culture or their society of bees work. It's like you have one goal, and that's the hive, right? So, it's simplistic but very complicated at the same time.
Exactly.
It's like, and I mean, there's just so much that you were telling me throughout the day. I was like, I can't take it. It's like that's why I wanted to set this up. And I mean, we can do more too. It's just, you're like, there's people that literally spend their whole lives trying to learn about bees, and there's just so much about them that's cool, and obviously their honey's good too. So.
Yeah. Oh man, I gotta send you up some honey, man, before it gets too cold and the mailman takes forever, right?
On my way home, I stopped and bought some honey. I forget the place, but it was basically the honeys. The bees were on the orange blossoms. That's where they're getting all their nectar and pollen and stuff, and it's super sweet, man. It was really good. Really good.
Yeah. Orange blossom honey's all right, man. I'm fond of darker honeys that have like a more like robust flavor to them.
Wildflowers.
Yeah, man, I'm a fan. I'm gonna have to send you some. You'll see.
Yeah, I got some of that too, and I was kind of doing a little taste test, and the wildflower is very, what I would typically think honey would taste like. And then the orange blossoms were something that I don't think I've ever had before, so it was kind of cool. But yeah, man, this was great. I guess where can people find you? Instagram or your website.
To be able to get in touch with me or find me, you can find me on Instagram at Bearded Beekeeper. And you can find my business page at Gold Coast Wild. I do a lot of my posting on Bearded Beekeeper, though. That's where I like to, show everybody what beehive I'm currently working on, where we're transporting these boxes to, and things of that nature. So if you want to get in contact with me on Facebook, you can locate me, Adrian Perez, or you can also search for The Bearded Beekeeper or Gold Coast Wildlife, and I'll be on both of those pages. And I mean, I'd be happy, you know, to answer questions, get you the help you need to get, you know, your bees taken care of, and, you know, relocated to a good home if possible. And you know, I'm the one who takes care of them, so I try. Those are the best platforms to reach me at, is on Instagram there.
Yeah, man, you have interesting days. It's just every day is a different day, you know. So I hope you keep posting and doing videos and educating people on bees, and you know, spreading the word, because I mean, I think people are understanding, you know, more and more, because there's more focus on bees. Maybe because if we didn't have bees, we'd all be dead, you know. So it's like,
Basically.
you know, they're like, oh shit, maybe we should care about the bees, you know, like.
We'd be in big trouble without honeybees.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. We can do this again. I'm sure people have a ton of questions and things I didn't really ask, but you know, there's just so much.
Absolutely, man. I'd be happy to come back to another video, or, you know, video chat, or if you ever want to come back down and, you know,
I'll be back down for sure.
we'll definitely play out. We'll find some good ones, and we'll do some removals, and we'll do a big old like a nice honey tasting or something, man. We'll, you know, get all the honeys we got, and we'll make like a nice you know, little charcuterie board with like the cheese and meats and stuff.
There you go. You should actually do that on your Instagram, man.
Yeah, man. I've done it a couple times. I've posted some stuff. We do, you know, I did like my pancake drizzle, like honey drizzle the other day. You know, I like my, you know, I like what I produce, or what my bees produce, and I like using it, you know, in my food, man. I like, you know, the honey in my coffee. I like honey on my pancakes and waffles, you know. So, and you can never go wrong with like a nice, you know, wheel of brie with some honey and some nice crackers on there. That's some good stuff, man. So
Cool, man. Well, I'll let this go, and thank you so much, and we'll be in touch here.
sounds good, man. Thanks for having me.
You too, bud.
Later.